What does he eat for breakfast?
He eats he eats bread for breakfast. He doesn't eat rice for breakfast.
What does she drink in the morning?
She drinks tea in the morning. She doesn't drink milk in the morning.
What does he do after school?
What the she he play badminton after school. He doesn't play football after school.
What does she usually read?
She read novel. She doesn't read book.
What does he like to watch on TV?
He likes watches sport on TV. He doesn't like watch cartoon.
What does she need for class?
He bring a notebook and pen for class. He doesn't uh, bring laptop for class.
What does he usually buy at the market?
He usually buy meat at the market. He doesn't buy vegetable at the market.
What does she usually cook at home?
He usually cook dry at home. He doesn't usually noodle at home.
What does he do in the evening?
He do exercise in the evening. He doesn't play game in the evening.
What does she do on weekends?
Mm. What does she do on weekend? She do she do she watch TV on weekend. She doesn't go out on
What
weekend.
does he usually wear to work?
Mm, he wear uniform to work. He doesn't wear jeans to work.
What does she eat for lunch?
She eat dry for lunch. She doesn't eat noodle for lunch.
What does he drink in the afternoon?
He drink milk in the afternoon. He doesn't drink tea in the afternoon.
What does she do when it rains?
She she listen to music when it rains. She doesn't go out when it's rain.
What does he usually write?
He usually write new work. He doesn't usually write di- diary.
What does she need for the party?
She need she need cake and food for the party. She doesn't need chair for the party.
What does he usually do in his free time?
She listen to music in her free time. She doesn't watch TV in her free time.
What does she usually drink at lunch?
He drinks tea at lunch. He doesn't drink milk at lunch.
What does he usually eat for dinner?
She eats dry for dinner. She doesn't eat noodles for dinner.
What does she usually do in the evening?
She she eats noodles in the evening. She doesn't eat fast food in the evening.
What does she usually do on Sunday?
She usually play badminton on Sunday. She doesn't play game on Sunday.
What does he usually wear at home?
He usually wear t-shirt at home. He doesn't wear shoes at home.
What does she usually cook for lunch?
She usually cook rice for lunch. She doesn't usually cook noodles for lunch.
What does he usually drink in the morning?
She usually drinks tea in the morning. She doesn't usually drink coffee in the morning.
What does she usually eat for breakfast?
She eats bread for breakfast. She doesn't eat dry for breakfast.
What does he do after dinner?
He play badminton after dinner. He doesn't play basketball after dinner.
What does she need for school?
She needs not a notebook for school. She doesn't need laptop for school.
What does he usually read before bed?
She needs before bed. She she read novel before bed. She doesn't read book before bed.
What does she usually do in the morning?
She usually exercise in the morning. She doesn't usually play game in the morning.
What does he usually cook on Sunday?
She usually cook dry on Sunday. She doesn't usually cook fast food on Sunday. Yeah.
What does he usually drink in the evening? What does he usually do on Saturdays?
Ồ ba ơi,
What does he usually buy for the party?
he buy he buy gift for the party. He doesn't buy food for the party.
What does she usually read at night?
She usually read she read book at night. She doesn't usually read novel at night.
What does he usually eat at a restaurant?
He eat pasta or restaurant. He doesn't eat fast food or restaurant.
What does she usually drink at breakfast?
He usually drink tea at a breakfast. He doesn't usually drink meal at a breakfast.
What does she usually eat for dinner?
She usually eat dry for dinner. She doesn't usually eat noodles for dinner.
What does he usually do in the morning?
He usually exercise in the morning. He doesn't usually play game in the morning.
What does she usually wear to a party?
She wear dress to the for the party. She doesn't wear jeans for the party.
What does he usually drink in the afternoon?
Drink in the afternoon. She drink milk in the afternoon. She doesn't drink tea in the afternoon.
What does she usually cook for breakfast?
He usually cook for breakfast. He the cook he cook noodle for breakfast. He doesn't cook dry for breakfast.
What does he usually read after work?
He usually play badminton after work. He he doesn't uh, play game after work.
What does she usually do at the weekend?
She usually uh, what she usually watch movie on weekend. She doesn't usually play
What
game
does he
on
usually
weekend.
buy at the supermarket?
He buy meat at the supermarket. He doesn't buy vegetable at the supermarket.
What does she usually play after school?
She play badminton after school. She doesn't play basketball after school.
What does he usually watch on TV?
She usually she usually watch sport on TV. She doesn't usually watch movie on TV.
What does she usually do in her free time?
What does she usually do in her free time? She usually play badminton in her free time. She doesn't play basketball in her free time.
What does he usually need for school?
If we need for school, she doesn't usually. She usually need a notebook for school. She doesn't usually.
What does she
Uh,
usually do on Sundays?
she play badminton on Sunday. She doesn't play game on Sunday.
What does he usually wear at home?
Wear home. He wear t-shirt at home. He doesn't wear shoes at home.
What does she usually eat for a snack?
Uh, he eating food for a snack. He doesn't need eating candy for a snack.
What does he usually drink in the evening?
He drink tea in the evening. He doesn't drink coffee in the evening.
What does she usually cook for lunch?
She usually cook rice for lunch. He doesn't usually cook noodles for lunch.
What does he usually do after dinner?
She um, after dinner she play badminton after dinner. She doesn't play game after dinner.
What does she usually buy online?
She usually buy clothes online. She doesn't usually buy food online.
What does he usually read before bed?
He usually read book before bed. He doesn't usually novel before bed.
What does she usually need for work?
She usually needs laptop for work. She doesn't usually need book for work.
What does he usually wear to school?
She bring a, a pen to school. She doesn't need laptop for school.
What does she usually eat for lunch?
Uh, uh, she eat rice for lunch. She doesn't eat noodles for lunch.
What does he usually do in the evening?
She he eat rice in the evening. He doesn't drink tea in the evening.
What does she usually drink at breakfast?
She drinks milk at breakfast. She doesn't drink tea at breakfast. Bác ơi, bác, bác ơi, bác,
What does he usually cook at home?
cho con đi vệ sinh kìa.
What does
Bác
she
ơi,
usually
con
do
xong
in
rồi.
the park?
She usually play badminton in her park. She doesn't usually play basketball in the park.
What does he usually eat at a restaurant?
Uh, she eat noodle. She eat pasta in a restaurant. She doesn't eat fast food in a restaurant.
What does she usually watch on the weekend?
He watch TV on weekend. He doesn't watch movie on weekend.
What does he usually need for the party?
She mm, she she need no cake for the party. She doesn't need a chair for the party.
What does she usually do in her free time?
He is really do in her free time. She do homework in her free time. She doesn't go out in her free time.
What does he usually drink at lunch?
He drink tea at lunch. He doesn't drink milk at lunch.
What does she usually eat for dinner?
She usually eat dry for dinner. She doesn't doesn't eat noodle for
What
dinner.
does he usually cook for breakfast?
Cook for breakfast. He cook he cook he cook he cook noodle for breakfast. He doesn't cook rice for breakfast.
What does she usually buy at the market?
She buy meat at the market. He doesn't buy what at the market.
What does he usually do after school?
She usually do after school. She usually play badminton after school. She doesn't play football after school.
What does she usually wear at home?
He wear t-shirt at home. He doesn't wear shoes at home.
What does he usually read in the evening?
Usually, um, he he cook in the evening. He doesn't cook noodles in the evening.
What does she usually do on Saturday mornings?
She do exercise in a Saturday morning. She doesn't uh, play game in the morning Saturday.
What does he usually eat for a snack?
Snack. He eat he eat fruit for a snack. He doesn't eat candy for a snack.
What does she usually drink in the evening?
Mhm. She doesn't eat. She eat right in the evening. He doesn't.
What does he usually need for school?
She need a notebook for school. Uh, he doesn't need laptop for school.
What does she usually cook on weekends?
She cook dry on weekend. She doesn't cook fast food on weekend.
What does he usually do in the park?
He do play football in the park. He doesn't play. He doesn't play. Play badminton in a park.
What does she usually watch on TV at night?
If we park on TV at night, if we uh, he watch sport on TV at night. He doesn't watch movie on TV at night.
What does he usually buy online?
He usually buy clothes online. He doesn't he buy food online.
What does she usually do before going to bed?
Mm, she listen to music before going to bed. She doesn't. She doesn't play game before going to bed.
What does he usually eat for lunch?
He usually eat dry for lunch. He doesn't usually eat noodle for lunch.
What does she usually drink at breakfast?
He usually drink tea at breakfast. He doesn't drink milk at breakfast.
What does he usually cook at home?
At home. He cook dry at home. He doesn't cook fast food at home.
What does she usually wear to school?
Where he wear uniform to school. He doesn't wear t-shirt for school.
What does he usually do in the evening?
She do in the evening. She read book in the evening. She doesn't mm, read novel in the evening.
What does she usually eat at a restaurant?
She eat pasta in a restaurant. She doesn't eat fast food in restaurant.
What does he usually do on Sundays?
He play badminton on Sunday. He doesn't play football on Sunday.
What does she usually buy for the party?
For party, he buy gift for a party. He doesn't buy food for a party.
What does he usually read before bed?
He read a book before bed. He doesn't read novel before bed.
What does she usually do in her free time?
She usually uh, watch TV in her free time. She doesn't usually play game in her free time.
What does he usually drink in the morning?
He usually drink in the morning. He drink tea in the morning. He doesn't drink coffee in the morning.
What does she usually cook for lunch?
She cook rice for lunch. She doesn't cook noodles for lunch.
What does he usually wear to work?
She wear uniform to work. She doesn't wear wear a t-shirt to work.